Yeah, cool, fantastic. Well, just some nice and easy ones. The cliche that it's been with all of the clubs and players I've spoken to, whether it's United or St Johnstone with Jason Kerr, is that you're the massive favourites, but actually it doesn't really matter how you get through as long as you get through.
Yeah, exactly. We've done a lot of preparation building up to the game so far, and also got an hour day's training to really kind of hone in on what we want to do in the match. And we're treating it like every other game, preparing properly, and looking to put on a good performance and get in the next round.
Obviously, the tricky bit of this is the long trip down to Stair Park, and Stranraer are notoriously good on their home patch, and actually their form's been pretty decent in the last few weeks. So, as much as they might be exhausted from playing 4 games a week, just about, they will be tricky opponents.
Yeah, exactly. Also, for the kind of look at the last few games, and obviously their matches are coming thick and fast at the minute, which is probably a bit unfair to these sort of clubs, but it's the way it's got to be to finish their campaigns. And but as you said, they're coming off the back of good form. So when you're in good form, you just want the next game to come, and I'm sure they'll be mentally and physically prepared for us, just as we will be for them.
You've got to right or wrong, if you like, with the cup this year. Obviously, the League Cup wasn't the outcome you wanted in that semi-final, but you've got a really good chance to get all the way through to the final this year because of the way the draw is, and the added incentive, I suppose, as well. You know, sad news that Ryan Jack's going to miss the Euros, but you're right on the edge of getting into that squad if your form continues to be this good this season.
Yeah, obviously there has been disappointments throughout this season, but that comes throughout every season. You're not going to go through plain sailing, but the majority of this campaign has been positive for us. And again, we see this as another opportunity to take a step further. And I think the disappointments have been so big because they're in major tournaments and they're at the final stages, and that's what makes them so heartbreaking. And difficult to get over. So, but on the flip side of that, you've got to look at, we are getting to these situations time and time again. So as I said, this is another opportunity to put ourselves in these big matches, and hopefully we'll go one further. But that's a fair bit down the line ahead of this game.
So, Paul, do you think that experience that you've got now of reaching semi-finals and even finals recently, in terms of that, can give you that sort of, that experience now to get over the line? Do you think you've been, the fact you've been there so regularly will help going into the sort of latter stage of this tournament? Yeah, you'd like to think it does, but everybody knows cup football, and that's why you need to you'd always prepare properly and be as professional as you possibly can for every single round, and that's what we'll be doing this weekend. But we've got experience of going to Handon, but that doesn't prepare us for going to Stranraer away. So, as I said, we just need to kind of look at this match, do a professional job hopefully this weekend, and get us into the next round. It's one of the sort of more unique grounds in Scotland. Have you been down there before?
Nah, I don't think I've ever been. So, it's a fair journey away, and it's another one to kind of tick off the list in terms of my professional career. Going to different stadiums, you want to do that. Lower leagues, higher leagues, European football, you want to kind of experience as much as you can throughout your career. So, looking forward to a trip down there at the weekend.
They always say these kind of ties, especially when you're going away from home, are sort of banana skins. But do you think, when not having the crowds there, does that take some of the sort of risky factor away from it?
I'm not sure really. I think there's still a massive potential banana skin for us. They're, as you said, a team that are in form. They've been winning games recently, so that makes them very dangerous, scoring goals as well. So we can't be taking them lightly, and we won't be taking them lightly going into the match. And as I said, we know if we can perform well on the day, then that should be enough to get us into the next round. So it's up to us to do that.
Paul, can you remember what you were up to 5 years ago today?
I think I was watching a Conrad Logan masterclass.
Sitting behind you anyway.
I
mean, when you look at that, quite something that day?
No, it was incredible. Just the whole story behind it, and for him to be such a hero on that day was just incredible. What an individual performance, and then obviously there was a kind of Jason Cummins sideshow as well, missing the penalty and then scoring the winner as well. So it's a good day to look back on, and a kind of big part of the story of winning the Scottish Cup.
Did it still sort of frighten you? I mean, you could go to Stranraer, and I mean, if everybody was sitting and things like that, you could still line up with three of the guys that were, or all of the guys even that were in that back line with you that day.
Yeah, it shows there's a bit of continuity to the squad, and the guys that have been here a while, and I've been fortunate enough to lift this trophy. So I say we'll be trying to pass on a bit of experience to the boys that haven't experienced it, but there's lads that have played down in the FA Cup and places like that as well, where there's potential banana skins all over the place there as well. So it's just cup football really, and most of the players have been involved in first team environments long enough to know how you need to treat these games.
Any messages going down south to Conrad today?
No, I'm not spoken for a while actually, but I'm sure there'll be a while to come anyway. Every time this day comes around, he gets remembered, and rightly so, because what performance he put on that day and got us to the final.
Paul, with the Scottish Cup win in 2016, does that be your best moment of your career so far?
Definitely. I'd probably go as far as saying I'd have to do really, really well to ever match that, to be honest. Obviously desperate to add to that between now and the end of my career. Hopefully an Irish Scottish Cup, potentially a League Cup, whatever. I can get my hands on. But in terms of the way that went, that was just incredible to obviously everyone knows how long it had been since Hibs had won that cup. So and being a Hibs fan as well, just a really special moment for me and my family, and to be part of that squad. So it's massive for me.
During that cup winning season, I think you scored probably one of the most pivotal goals on the cup run against Hearts. Is that some? Do you think of that a lot? Like what could have been? Had, won that.
I would say I think about it a lot now. It's probably like to now when you have to kind of speak to you guys, and on Scottish Cup weekends it kind of comes up a bit more. But it was probably one of them that I was delighted to score at Tynecastle again, being a Hibs fan, scoring against Hearts. It was all great, but I probably don't realise the significance until we do go on and lift the cup, and realise how much a pivotal moment it was.
And with Celtic and Rangers, I suppose, meeting this weekend, one of them gets knocked out. Does that open up the draw for Hibernian? And also, I suppose the League Cup final shows that teams out with the big two can actually go on and win a trophy.
Yeah, definitely. You're always kind of looking at your pathway. We obviously know what lies ahead, the way the format's been this year in terms of drawing the next two rounds, so we know what's ahead of us. If we do progress this weekend. So, listen, the whole time I'm always going as strong favourites to these competitions, but we're one going out this weekend, and it does open up an opportunity for other teams, and we like to think that we're in that category.
Just finally for me, I know Chris mentioned earlier international aspirations. You've been involved in Scotland squads. How confident are you that you could maybe play yourself into Steve Clarke's for the Euros?
Well, obviously, it's always been an ambition of mine to play for my country, and luckily enough, with the form I've had this season, that's got me that this year. Delighted to get that cap, and to know that you are kind of in and amongst the manager's thoughts. And every player will stay the same, but it is really all about me performing well for Hibs, and Hibs being successful. That's a big part of it as well. Being part of a successful Hibs team will undoubtedly help my chances. So that is my main focus, to try and finish the season strongly, cement third place, and see how far we can go in the cup. And if that leads to anything else in terms of internationally, then I'd be absolutely over the moon. But I know first and foremost that I need to be doing it week in, week out for Hibs.
Thank you.
Paul, after the club cemented their place in the top six this season, how important is it for the club to get a run in the Scottish Cup?
Yeah, it's always an ambition. As I touched on earlier, we've performed well enough in recent years, just not got to that kind of final or on to win the trophies. But we're getting to the latter stages regularly, so we want to continue that, and then obviously we want to go that step further. We're getting to these big matches at Hampden, but just not coming out on the right side the last few occasions. So we need to put that right. But as I touched on earlier, we need to go to Stranraer first and take care of that, and then we can start looking forward.
Do you think, as a team, having been there twice this season in semi-finals and lost out, that you can learn some lessons from those games? I know you've obviously got this tie to come through first, but do you think, as a squad, you can learn something from those two defeats so far this season in cup competitions?
Yeah, you'd like to think you take learnings from each individual match in terms of where you went wrong, but if you learn from these errors, it doesn't mean that you automatically win the next semi-final. They're all completely individual matches, which you need to treat that way. And as I said, we're obviously nowhere near that stage yet, but if we were, then we'd be preparing as we do for every other opponent and the manager would be trying to work out a game plan that would win these games. But as I said, we're not at that stage yet.
Just finally for me, Paul, after last week missing out on probably a point at Ibrox, can the squad take a lot of confidence in that performance that you put in at the weekend?
Yeah, I think so. I think in terms of the number of chances that we created, a lot of shots on target, a right few opportunities to get at least a point from the match was a positive. We came off the pitch thinking that we deserved and we potentially could have got more from that match. So I think that's a step in the right direction. But at the end of the day, we didn't get anything from the match. So it's just about kind of getting to that next level where we're going to Ibrox and we're taking points and we're getting wins on a regular basis, which I think over the course of our matches with Rangers this season, we probably deserved that a wee bit more than what we've got.
Thanks, guys.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Move over
Cheers.
to the written portion. Patrick, can you just get us started when you're ready, please?
Hi, Paul. Obviously, you've got the sort of Scottish Cup hoodoo out of the way in 2016. How has the approach to the cup now changed from before you won it?
In terms of personally,
Yeah, I suppose personally, but also kind of from the club's point of view, there isn't this sort of monkey on the back about the cup.
yeah, I think obviously it was that monkey on the back for a number of years, which the club were desperate to get rid of. But I think for doing that, it's probably gave even more hunger and passion to do it again, because you see how big it was, how big the celebrations were, how happy everybody at the club, all the fans and everyone else was, how happy they were. So it probably does give you that drive and hunger to really do it all again, because they're the moments in your career that when it's all said and done, that you look back and say like that's the real special moments that you remember and kind of want to look back on when you're done.
And everyone's assuming that the Premier League teams, the Championship teams in this round have got a huge advantage because of the schedule in the lower leagues. But when you saw Hearts going out of the competition against Brora, is that a reminder of how dangerous these games can be?
Yeah, there's no doubt that there are dangerous opponents that are in good form, and we all know it's cup football. Things like that do happen regularly, so we need to be ready to, as I said, fully prepared physically and mentally to go into the match and do well. And we're fully aware that these results happen, and we need to kind of guard against that.
They obviously put out Brora as well, so could be a stiffer challenge than Hearts got.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we played Brora as well in the League Cup this year, so listen, it was a disappointment, a massive disappointment for Hearts, but there are no mugs either, and these teams, especially now, they're getting runs of games where they're probably just picking back up to kind of peak fitness in terms of match fitness. And I know as a player myself, I like to be playing regularly. I like to just keep the games coming thick and fast, midweek games, weekends, and that's where I probably feel my best. So I'm sure a lot of these lads are feeling quite good at the minute.
Paul, you'll likely come up against Darryl Duffy on Sunday. I'm guessing you were at Hibs at the same time as Darryl.
Yeah.
What sort of challenge are you expecting for the big man?
No, he was a tremendous professional when he was here. Really good guy, really likeable guy, and worked so hard on his game. I remember John Hughes was the manager at the time, and we just signed him, and he kind of pulled a few of us younger lads at the time and said, "Look, watch this guy train." He just gave his all every single day, and everything he's got in his career, he's earned it because he did work so hard every day in training, and you see him now, he's still looking as fit as ever. So I'll credit to him, and good to catch up with him at the weekend.
You expecting them to give you a tough time? I mean, that training regime, I suppose, is why you're still playing at the age that he is.
Yeah, there's no hiding place really in terms of when you get to that age. If you're still looking fit and sharp, then you have put the work in, and he's obviously done that. He's done that throughout his career, and I'll credit to him. But I said we'll be keep him quiet.
You mentioned earlier, Paul, that you didn't think you could maybe even top that 2016 Scottish Cup win. But you'll never know that until you get into another cup final and win it, will you? So you'll be doing everything you can to try and repeat that and see what it's like.
Exactly. I mean, got a taste for it in 2016, how big it is and how good it can be. So if that doesn't kind of whet your appetite for more, then nothing will. So I'm desperate to win it again. And experience all the incredible scenes all over again would be amazing.
What did it mean to even members of your family and stuff like that? Obviously, being a Hibs family.
It's just probably like most Hibs families. You start thinking, like obviously my dad, uncles, and that, they're all Hibs fans. You start thinking, they're getting a wee bit older. They think, well, am I going to see this happen? But obviously for them to have me in the team that eventually done it just makes it even extra special. I mean, if I wasn't playing in Hibs in the Scottish Cup, they'd be celebrating like they were anyway. But with me in the team, it just made it extra special. And
you touched on it earlier, just that goal at Tynecastle as well, playing such a big part, and it must be special for you as well. Yeah, as now that, as I said, now that we've gone on and won the trophy, that is extra special. But at the time it was special as well because I'd scored my first goal against Hearts. So it was special moments, and that's what cup football brings. If we were lucky enough to go on and lift the trophy, then you look back at all these moments along the way. But as I said, that this weekend we've got to start creating these moments that are going to get us there.
Because it's the last game of the season, Paul, it allows you to celebrate properly. How long did those celebrations last in 2016?
There was a few days. The boys were giving it a good go. Some lasted longer than others. I was unfortunate. I had got injured in the cup final, so I was a few days after. I was in with the physios, try to kind of assess the injury, which probably was in worse condition considering what I'd been up to for the last few days. So it was incredible scenes, and just it's kind of one of the ones that it's a bond that kind of stays with the whole squad now. That's going to be there forever.
Mike Marvin said in an interview this week that everybody still keeps in touch from that team. He remembers getting called to pick up Boyley from George Street, from a doorway in George Street and stuff. So is it just moments like that just kind of stay with you for the rest of your career and the rest of your lives?
Exactly. I listened to a bit of Marv's interview, and he's spot on really. That squad, it was as close as I've ever came across. We've got a really good squad just now, which is really close. And I think when you create these special moments, it's great to be part of a squad like that when you're so tight together and wanting each other to do well. And in 2016, we definitely had that. We're all just a group of real hard working, but good mates as well, all off the pitch. And I could share a pint with any of them going forward. So that's just the way the squad was then. And as I said, when you create these special moments, then it's when you look back and realise how close and how tight we really were.
You got a name check in that interview as well for getting banjoed by Jason.
I'm sure that was the other way around. You need to listen to that interview more carefully.
Good man. Cheers.
All right.
All the best.
Right, cheers.
Jack, there's already been some big upsets in the Cup this season, and I'm sure by hook or by crook, you're determined not to be the next one this weekend.
Yeah, very much so. I think for us, obviously, the obvious incentive for progressing in the Cup and through to quarterfinals, irrespective of the opponent that we would have in this round. We've had a lot of these types of challenges over the last couple of years, and we've always handled them quite well. I think we've been hugely respectful in our preparation for all these games, and we have been again this week in terms of the work we've undertaken to be prepared for Stranraer, and hopefully we'll see that reflected in the type of performance we give on Sunday.
I know a lot's been made about the calendar that the League One and League Two clubs have had since they resumed playing, but I imagine if you were a player for Stranraer, you'd just be absolutely raring to go. You'd feel right in the prime.
Yeah, I mean, I think the circumstances of this season are obviously highly unusual, and had a period of long inactivity for those clubs in League One and League Two, and undoubtedly those players and coaches and managers will have missed football. So I don't think you'll hear them complaining too much about the frequency of matches they've had. However, I would temper that and say that it's not ideal. I think it's a big ask to play that number of games in such a short period as Stranraer and others have had. But we've obviously only got to concern ourselves with our own schedule, if you like, in preparation. But I'm sure, as you mentioned, that none of those players will be complaining about getting the opportunity to play regularly again, and obviously the type of game that they're going to have on Sunday against us.
Is it the kind of match where, if it was a different round of the competition, you might be tempted to rotate a bit more, but because of where you are and how few games there are left to play, actually you'll just need to put your strongest 11 out?
I think, like always, we will choose the team that I think is best fits winning the game. We have quite a small squad as it is anyway, so the ability to make wholesale changes isn't easy. But we'll bring a little bit of freshness to it. We've obviously got a really important league game on the following Wednesday, but for us, the stage of the competition, and then I think the point you make, about the stage of the season, it's unusual to play this stage of the competition this close to the end of the season. So, it's an opportunity for us to have a bit of continuity as well, because performance-wise, the last couple of matches, the cup tie and the league game, have been good, and we want to try and maintain that level.
Just a couple more from me. Any sort of contract news? Is it the kind of period where you're able to have a discussion with people, or is that all on the back burner at the moment? I know Jackson Irvine was one that we'd spoken to you a few weeks about.
I think the structure of the club means that, once I'm certain on who either I would like to bring to the club or who we would like to retain at the club, then Graham Matthew, in his role as sporting director, moves forward with that. And so he's continued to have dialogue with representatives of players that we want to keep at the club, and thus far that dialogue's been positive enough for us to retain hope that we'll maintain the core of the group we've got at the moment, because I think naturally when you've enjoyed the productive season you want to do that. So still ongoing, still nothing definitive to report either way, but naturally I think for all parties there will come a time where you have to draw a line under it one way or another and start planning for life without players or with them.
One player that's been an absolute stalwart for Hibs, we just spoke to before, Paul Hanlon. He's been in a Euro squad already, and we've seen, really unfortunately this week, a couple of what you might have called stick-ons in Ollie McBurney and Ryan Jack ruled out now. There's every chance if he maintains his consistency and stays injury-free, he could be in that squad for June.
Well, I think I'm earning his cap this season. Being involved in the squad was a well-deserved reward for Paul for his performances, not just this season, but I think in his time at Hibs. I think he's a player that I've probably only really appreciated how good an all-round footballer he is when I get to work with him every day. Temperament and his attitude and his professionalism are outstanding, but just his qualities as a player, he's a really good player. And I think his consistency of performance this season, on the back of being involved in the national team squad, has meant that should any opportunities arise, I think he's still very much in those thoughts. I think he understands the players that are maybe ahead of him at the moment or within the squad and have a place in the squad. But as you mentioned, I think maintaining that performance level gives you the best possible chance should that arise.
Fantastic. Very best of luck. Enjoy the long trip down to Stranraer.
Thank you.
Hi Jack, you spoke after last week's game about Martin Boyle and obviously the situation with the yellow card he got. Was there any discussion at the club as whether to appeal that yellow card that he got for the simulation?
No, I didn't. I didn't speak to Martin about it in terms of appealing it. I didn't agree with the decision at the time. I had made that clear after the game in terms of why I felt it wasn't a caution. But you know, for me, it's done. You know, I think we can try and re-referee the game all the time nowadays, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal for us. As I said, the bit that I was clear to point out, or keen to point out, sorry, was the thing Martin's done so himself, is that we don't want his character tainted in any way in terms of him gaining what would be, in my opinion, a very much unfair reputation. And I think that was the point we wanted to make, and I think we could do that without the need to go and dispute the referee's decision on an appeal basis.
And can I just check your team news for Sunday's game?
Just as we were, Andy, just Jamie Murphy still absent, Sean Mackey still absent. So the same numbers and personnel as we had available for the game at Ibrox.
Jack, how do you prepare for a game like this? Obviously, you said you had plenty of these kind of ties over the last couple of years, but can you tell us a little bit about how you prepare differently, you know, when you're playing a team that you don't play 2, 3, 4 times a season?
The truth is we don't prepare any differently. The structure and organisation of our week is exactly the same. The content of the session, the content of what you plan to do tactically changes, but that changes from Premiership opponent as well. The only thing that does alter a little bit is there's less familiarity. So, you know, by the time we get to this stage of the season, you know, when we go to Ibrox last week, for example, it's the 4th time we played Rangers this season. So, although there's a reminder of what we want to do within the game and what challenges we face, the players are hugely familiar with it. So, there's a little bit of freshness about the way you think you can go and win the game, but in terms of the structure of the week and the respect that we in our preparations is exactly the same for the tie this weekend for Stevie's team as it was against Rangers last weekend.
Jack, I know harking back to last weekend a bit, but does it make you feel a wee bit older that you had somebody born in 2005 on the bench and Ethan Laidlaw last week?
Yeah, it's every year that I manage, I get further away in age from young players. That's just the reality of it. So I think that is not, you know, for me now, it's not insignificant to notice that in terms of the birthdays or for the birth year, sorry, some of these young players. But like I said, in the aftermath of it, those young players, not just at Hibs, but across the country in a lot of cases have had a really tough year. They've missed out on that excitement of being a first year professional and everything that goes with it. They've had times where they've not enjoyed that continuity of training and not had games programme. So although that's returning at the moment, it was an opportunity for us. In Ethan's case, we also had Jacob Blaney in the squad who trained with us recently at a similar age. A little bit of reward for them and being around the first team for such an important game as well. So nice to have the opportunity to do that as a manager. You know, because I said it's been a tough year for those people that were born around that time, you know, in terms of their football development.
Ethan this week has been linked to some pretty high profile at Premier League clubs. He's only 16. I mean, how much potential has he got?
Look, I think that's what it is at the moment, is potential, and I've not worked an awful lot with him because of the reasons I've already stated, you know, in terms of I've not seen as much of him as I would normally do because of the circumstances of the last year. But I've been aware of the attention that he's had and the interest that's been around him for a period of time now. Like everything, it's our challenge is to try and keep our best young players for as long as we can, while understanding that the nature of the beast means that you will risk losing your best players to bigger clubs at times as well. So for us, hopefully, even the opportunity to involve Ethan last week and be around the first team, and he'll travel with us to Stranraer this weekend as well. So just that taste of being around the first team, but he's still got a long way to go in terms of physical and psychological development to play first team football. But just the opportunity to be around what we're doing should hopefully whet his appetite to be involved with Hibs for the longer term, if you like, and make that progression to playing in our first team.
Obviously, you're speaking about the impact on the academy this year, but you've still had Murray Johnson, Josh Doy, Ethan linked to all these big clubs and making strides towards your first team. So it shows that your academy staff are doing well, but also you are also doing a decent job of still bringing them through in the current climate.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important point to make about. I spoke about the challenges for those young players, but also for academy staff. I'll only speak about our club, but I know it would be similar for other clubs as well. Is that the periods of inactivity they've had in terms of being able to coach, and a lot of them have a real passion for it. It's been a challenging period for them. They've had to train at different times and operate in their own bubbles as well. So there's been a degree of isolation for them, if you like, compared to the normal interaction they would have with the first team level. So huge amount of respect for the job that Eddie May and Gareth Evans have done, in particular with the older academy players through that period. And obviously that feeds down to the junior academy starting back now. But certainly it's testament to what they do with the players that we've had, those young players that you mentioned. Josh is an obvious one, but Murray Johnson as well has spent a large chunk of the season training with us on a daily basis. And I think that'll prove beneficial to him in his future career, whether it's with him or elsewhere.
Jack, nice to speak to you. Cup competitions, I'd argue that you're a manager that's very consistent, very successful, getting to finals and semi-finals, but a heartache down south. What would it mean to get a good cup run going and obviously get that bit of silverware and get it on your CV, your managerial CV?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something, Doug, that I think you always want tangible success. I think you want to deliver success for the club you're working for, and when you build that relationship with your players and staff, that you want to see them achieve that reward, if you like, as well. And also believe that for us as a club, it should always be a realistic and ambition for us to win a cup competition. And it's difficult because some of these experiences I've had in the last 2 or 3 years and reaching finals and semi-finals have been brilliant. The runs to them have been great. I've enjoyed large parts of it, but then you've had the pain of falling short. And I think I said this in the aftermath of our semi-final defeats this season. I think you always have two choices. You cannot wish to get there again because you don't want to risk that pain, or you accept the risk knowing that the feeling on the other side of it is well worth it. So yeah, for me personally, and then for the club in terms of driving us towards winning a cup is huge. And this tie on Sunday gives us another opportunity to take a step closer to doing that.
I know we've heard Ron Gordon last couple of weeks saying that maybe the club might lose a few players. Could potentially a cup run mean that might not happen? You know, like a prize money, success, silverware.
Yeah, I mean, I think it always, the stronger you can, your on-field performance is, obviously has a knock-on effect on increased revenue and income, and particularly in the climate we've had over the last year, that all helps. And then how people perceive you as a club. So if you're a club that can finish in the upper part of the league and wins a cup, then I think it makes it an easier argument to try and persuade your players to stay for longer. And then on the flip side of that, should you lose any of our good players, trying to attract replacements, in the back of a successful season hopefully helps that as well. So I think for a number of reasons we understand the significance of trying to win the competition and how that might help us moving forward as well.
One name, I know you probably not speak about it, Lee Griffiths. Some suggestions that you might be interested in him. Can a few better finishers around? Is he somebody you admire and would be interested in if he wasn't at Celtic next season?
Yeah, I think a few parts of it, Doug. I think, first of all, not a player that as of yet will be available. I think that he's still contracted to Celtic, and there's been nothing to say that he would be as things stand. And I think that beyond that, I think there's been a lot of, I think it's an easy connection to make because of his previous time with the club and his association with Hibs, etc. However, I would temper that by saying he's a player that we have admiration for, of course, because his goal scoring record, as you pointed out, is will be up there with the best in Scotland over recent years. So it may be something that, should the opportunity arise, is something that we discuss. But certainly at the moment, it's not something that we've either or we've been able to discuss in any more detail, because he's not a player as of yet that would be available.
Just with the news that Ollie McBurney's potentially ruled out the Euros, you've got Kevin Nisbet, who's been in and around squads. Talk to me about his potential and where he could actually go in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you get to this stage of the season and he scored the goals he scored and he's been involved in Scotland, it looks like sounds very obvious to say when we persuaded the owner to support us to buy him that's what we expected. It's easy to say that now, but I think we fought so hard to bring him to the club because for his all-round play, his goal scoring record and goals per game ratio is brilliant in recent years, and that is a key factor. But then watched a lot from him in his all-round game that was actually more appealing, and I think he's shown that. And I think maybe that's the part that's perhaps surprised some observers. You know, the fact he's continued to score goals is maybe the thing they might have expected. But I think his all-round game is really good, and for me actually, in the time he's came back from earning his first cap and being involved with Scotland squad, he's definitely kicked again. You know, it looks to me, Queen of the South Cup game, Rangers last weekend, he's been excellent in training. He's just looked like whether he's just gained an extra shot of confidence from it, or whether he's just gained from it again and been around players of a top level, international level. But he certainly kicked a little bit again, and delighted. You know, it's great for us, and that incentive of being involved in the squad for a major tournament is huge. What a massive opportunity for him, and I think he knows that. And I think that's why he's determined to finish this season in the manner he's played the bulk of the season so far.
Just finally from me, just want to ask about Paul McGinn, a man obviously you know well, had him at St Mirren. Very consistent. How important a signing has he been? And he's obviously been in and around Scotland squads as well. Do you think he's somebody that, you know, it's a position that we're maybe not as strong in? Is he someone that can actually kick on and do well?
I think Paul, like Paul Hanlon, like Ryan Porteous, has obviously been around Steve's squads, been involved in some of them, always been in that fitness for duty list, if you like, to be available. And I think his consistency, as you mentioned, has been a reason for that. I think similar as I spoke about Paul Hanlon earlier, all he can do is maintain a performance level for club that should any openings come up in Steve's squad, that he puts himself in a good position to take advantage of that. In terms of the pound per pound aspect of it, he's as good a signing as I'll probably make here. You know, managing him and getting him the club and what he's produced for me, number of minutes he's played, the level of his performance has been terrific, and he's played the different roles at times as well, whether it's been a back three or a back four. So brilliant signing for us, and I think he's a player that I still think's got improvement in him. You know, I think he can still get better, and I think hopefully he'll continue to do that.
Cheers, yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
After missing out a point narrowly at Ibrox last week, what positives did you take from the match into training this week?
I think that generally players are fairly honest in how they appraise games and how they reflect on them. And I said this in the aftermath about not wanting to be satisfied with a pat in the back and get praised for a performance that didn't result in any points. However, I think how competitive we are, we were sorry against a really, really good team, was encouraging again. And I said that about the players' honesty in their own appraisal. I think they knew that individually a lot of them had played well and had fallen short, but not by much. So on the back of a really good performance at Queen of the South, I think we feel as a squad as if we've got players in a good place, good form, feel good, physically look good in terms of what they've produced in the games as well. So, you know, looking to continue that again on Sunday.
You touched on earlier that the club's obviously reached 2 semi-finals this season. What do you think are the lessons that the players can learn from already reaching there? Obviously, this next game against Stranraer is the most important game to get through. But what are the biggest lessons that players can learn from the 2 semi-final defeats this season?
Well, I think it's one to make sure that you don't suffer that pain of losing at that stage of the competition. You're right to point out that we've still got a lot of work to get to that stage again. But the huge motivation and driver for us is to go 2 steps further than that, is to progress to a semi-final and then win a final. So it's always been a clear ambition for us this season, is to try and win a cup. As you mentioned, we've came close, but not close enough in that respect. So that motivation to go that couple of steps further is huge for us. But as you mentioned, a long way away for us at the moment.
In terms of targets that you probably set at the start of the season, you've already cemented your place in the top 6. How important is getting to the cup final, hopefully, this season?
I think it's just something that, you know, we felt, you know, from pre-season we had good open discussions about what we felt was realistically achievable for us as a group. And, you know, I think you have to have that buy-in. It's one of the things we speak about is we all agree to buy in, players and staff. And, you know, for us to be in the part of the table we've been in all season and then to win a cup, I think we all were in agreement, players and staff, that is not unrealistic for us. So it's been a constant driver for us. We speak about it from the early rounds of the competition. The last thing we always speak about is win the cup, but because you've got to have that in your mind, you've got to have that as your main motivation to do it. So it's not changed for us, irrespective of it being the Scottish Cup or the League Cup, and irrespective of the stage of the competition or the level of the opponent.
Cheers, Jack.
Thank you. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Jack.
Thank you very
Cheers,
much.
boys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Safe journey.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Patrick, just want to get us back underway when you're ready, please.
Hi, Jack. Obviously, Scottish Cup run would bring its own rewards, but how important to a strong finish of the season is Sunday's game?
Sorry, Patrick, I just missed the last part of that. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, it was just obviously the Scottish Cup itself is an important competition for the team, but in terms of finishing the season strongly, how important is Sunday's sort of performance and result?
I think in cup competitions, ultimately the result is the most important thing to progress to the next round. But we feel as if post the break, the international break, we've came back and produced 2 good performances, albeit with different outcomes in terms of the end result. So we feel as if the players are in a good place individually, feel good as a squad, and we're looking to continue that momentum. We don't want to come away from the standards we've set, if you like, for the bulk of the season, and particularly these last 2 games in terms of that latter part of the season. If you like, once the international break happened, it was almost this little part of the season on its own, and I feel as if we've started in a good way. It's about maintaining those levels.
Did the performance down at Queen of the South, did that kind of give you confidence that you can handle this challenge this weekend as well? The guys kind of seem to be on the ball that night in terms of the challenge they were facing then as well.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit that I think because of the squad that we have and the type of people we have and how they've approached the season, I never really get concerned about their attitude or mindset going into these games. So I recognise the challenge every opposition gives and how difficult games are, but I've never really had any question marks over their approach to it. And I think they've shown that. We've had some, even earlier in the season, a League Cup campaign, we went to difficult venues like Cove and Forfar aways, etc. And we really small squad and thin squad, and we still produced results because their mindset was good and their attitude was good. And I think the humility that we have within the group and their approach to the game means that there is never any way they're going to be disrespectful of their opponents on Sunday as a team or individually. And that's good for me because it's a good starting point. I think if they're mentally right for the game, which they will be, then you're obviously going to back them in terms of their actual football ability. But certainly for me, it's never been something that I've been concerned about going into these types of games for what the players have shown me thus far.
What's your experiences there, Park, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, probably varying ones in terms of through my career. I can't really remember that much about playing there. Management-wise, been there a couple of times with Alloa, did okay. I think I was there with St Mirren in the League Cup, did okay as well. So, yeah, I quite enjoy it. To be fair, I've always enjoyed it as a venue to go to. I've enjoyed the matches there. Stevie Farrell's somebody that I played in the same Scotland junior team with a long time ago. She's somebody that I've known for a long time as well. And I've repeated this quite a lot through the course of the season, but because of my career path, I've got an enormous amount of respect for guys that work at those clubs and the work they do and their professionalism and how they approach things. So looking forward to seeing him and his staff on Sunday, and looking forward to the venue. As I said, it's a venue that I think in the main I've done quite well in.
Does the time of kick-off cause you any problems? I mean, what time are you setting off at?
No, I mean, we've had to adjust our travel plans a little bit because of the game moving. And we've adjusted how we'll do things in the lead up to the game, but I think I can't complain too much about it given what Stevie and his squad have had to put up with over the last week and what they've got lying ahead for them following our game as well. So it's nothing too troubling. We're used to doing it. Players are highly professional in how they adapt to things and how they prepare. So it's just a case of us making sure all our timings are right, etc. But no, I'm fairly comfortable with how we'll prepare for the game.
Jack, just going back to what you said to the broadcasters about Lee Griffiths, I mean, are you like a lot of clubs, I would imagine, are just waiting to see what's happening with him at Celtic and then think about something like that?
No, I think that's a big step forward. I think for us at the moment, we, as things stand, those players that we know will be available. not just in Scotland but across the UK and Europe, and there's players that may become available. So should those maybes become definitives, then we have proper conversations about them. But certainly at the moment, it's nothing that we've discussed in any more detail.
Going back to the Stranraer, with what they've faced this week in terms of playing Tuesday, Thursday, having been somebody who's worked with part-time players before, do you think that'll affect them at all, or do you think even just playing the games rather than training is just just the same thing for them?
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Ian. It's first of all, I think that the professionalism and fitness levels of the bulk of part-time players now is very, very good. I think that as societies became more fitness orientated, I think it was hand in hand that people in general look after themselves. And I can only point to my experiences of working players at the Barton and Alloa to how professional they were and how dedicated they were and how hard they worked in training. So I think it's a fair point to say that that they'll have enjoyed the challenge of playing that number of games, because a lot of times the games are falling on nights they would be training anyway. Undoubtedly, they'll put more physically and mentally into those games than they would a training session, but I think still it wouldn't have been. I don't think they'll be complaining too much about it. I think they'll have enjoyed large parts of it. I think, particularly when they've had this year of periods of inactivity as well, that they'll probably enjoyed the challenge of it. So, I think I've read Stevie say that I don't think he's had any complaints over it. I think they've just taken it on and dealt with it accordingly.
They're obviously a bit of an unknown quantity. You said that to the broadcast guys. They obviously played Stenhousemuir this week. Has there been any sort of, given the partnership between Hibs and Stenhousemuir, has there been any advice, any tips from Uncle Beer on how to deal with them?
No, we've got our own way of working in terms of how we prepare for opponents. And John Potter was at the game on Tuesday against Stirling Albion, which allowed us to have eyes on them, plus our analysis team have put together the package we would for any league opponent as well. Plus, between John and I and the staff, there's not many players in Scotland that you've not came across or not worked with or not seen. So, although there's an unfamiliarity about them as opponents, there's quite a lot of familiarity about them in terms of the personnel, etc. So, it's been our, we feel as if we've got a depth of preparation that's stood us in good stead this season without having to reach out externally.
Good man, thanks very much.
Guys, thank you. Have a good afternoon.